The world is on the brink of catastrophic moral failure due to unfair vaccine rollouts, and the price of this failure will be paid with lives in the world's poorest countries. Those are the words of the Director General of the World Health Organization in a stern warning as the scramble for vaccines intensifies. Today, we are faced with the mammoth challenge of not just getting the vaccines from a manufacturing plant to billions of people, but getting them distributed fairly. Gyan Gandhi, UNICEF's COVAX coordinator for supply, joins us today to talk about what it will take to vaccinate the world against COVID-19. Gyan, UNICEF is part of COVAX, a global vaccine sharing fund that was set up to make sure that the distribution of vaccines doesn't become another brick in the wall for inequality between the haves and the have-nots. Now, COVAX aims to deliver 2 billion COVID-19 vaccines by the end of this year. How does COVAX plan on making this happen?
Thanks, Priyanka. Yeah, it's a great question. UNICEF already purchases and delivers around 2 billion other vaccines every year. So we have plenty of experience of doing this on a regular basis. The facility has reserved already 2 billion doses and has options on another billion doses thereafter. And then UNICEF's goal and role is really to purchase and deliver those vaccines. And so we are working with logistics providers all over the world. And we think that on average, that's going to amount to, or in total, it's going to amount to around 850 tons of vaccine, COVID vaccine being delivered this year to probably around 100 countries that UNICEF will be working with.
Gyan, let's talk about the logistics a little bit. Some of the vaccines approved for use require deep freezing and infrastructure that simply doesn't exist in most of the low-income countries. Can you explain to our viewers what a cold chain is, how it works, and how you will address this particular challenge?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the first thing to say is that the majority of those 2 billion doses that the COVAX facility has secured actually will rely on cold chain requirements that mean that a vaccine needs to be stored at essentially 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. That's the temperature in a regular household fridge. A few of the vaccines may need to be frozen in what is the equivalent temperature of minus 20 degrees of a regular kitchen freezer. And then, as you know, that there's at least one vaccine that requires deep freezing. But that is, if you like, the exception to the rule. And certainly the majority of the vaccines that UNICEF already purchases for other child health programs, maternal health programs, can be stored at those more less stringent temperatures. Most of the countries around the world with which UNICEF and our partners are working have very, very significant, if you like, cold chain foundations. By the end of 2020, we had already either delivered, installed, or purchased, I think, around 65,000 fridges, new fridges, predominantly for countries in Africa. Those fridges, it's kind of interesting to note, are primarily driven by solar electricity, and the reason for that, of course, is that we want to avoid any cutouts of electricity, and it's great we have that throughout most of Africa and Asia now. So the last thing I think to say here is that it's not just about the vaccines being in the fridges, but of course keeping the vaccines at those temperatures from the moment they leave a factory. So it's not just the countries or the health facilities that have these fridges, but it's also ice packs that we have with air freight carriers that keep the vaccines cool all the way down the chain and in refrigerated trucks. So it's a lot going on in the background.
And finally, Gyan, in 20 years from now, how would you like to hear people tell the story of COVAX to children?
Goodness, I can't wait for next year to come around, let alone 20 years from now in many ways. I think, in a way, COVAX, as I said, was sort of trying to do more than we've ever done before, but we're trying to do it to secure our futures and the futures of our children. It's not just about returning to what we consider normal. It's about ensuring that for example, for children, that healthcare programs can continue unabated, that people can return to schools and start both being able to be taught in the environments that are most conducive, and to do all of that as quickly as possible. And so I think the story that I'd like to really see told is the fact that we're trying to keep our eyes on that light at the end of the tunnel, and to ensure that light is really kind of shining for everyone, as our executive director has said. So it means that we're doing it across the world all at once. I think the other thing is, in trying to do this so quickly and so broadly across the world, I think the story is going to be interesting to look through the lens of how we're trying to work together on this at a time when individualism seems to be on the rise, when nationalism is on the rise, where the pandemic has really forced us to find a way to work in solidarity. And I think that, together with what we're trying to achieve, is a really powerful message. And I hope we can look back on that with a real, rose-tinted glasses in a way.
Well, that was really inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kian.
Thanks, Priyanka.
I learned a lot, and I hope all of you watching did too. If you have any questions you want answered about the COVID-19 vaccines, drop them in the comment section below, and we'll take them up in this series as we interview experts from around the world. Thanks for watching.